Hello, I'm Glenn Boyce, Chancellor of the University of Mississippi, and it's an honor to welcome you to the third annual REDe Entrepreneurship Summit. Although we cannot be in person this year, I'm so pleased that this exceptional event is moving forward in a virtual format. Especially now, it is important that we carry on with events such as this one that upholds our university's commitment to fostering an atmosphere of innovation, an environment of encouragement, and a spirit of entrepreneurship. I'd like to thank the organizers for their work in pulling this together. I also want to thank all the entrepreneurs and panelists who are sharing their time, expertise, and experiences with us. This summit is an exciting opportunity to hear from extraordinary and distinguished leaders, and we are so grateful that they are willing to share with us. I was glad to hear that the themes of resilience and adaptability would be woven through this year's summit. These are certainly words we've been hearing a lot of lately, as everyone is faced with managing tremendous challenges brought on by the pandemic. You could even argue that COVID-19 has put spotlight on it as an essential trait, because resiliency is about recovering from difficulties. It is about toughness. It is about how you keep going in the face of adversity. As our environments become more dynamic and unpredictable, resiliency is increasingly important in achieving success, both personally and professionally. There is a quote from a 16th century Irish writer that says, "Success consists of getting up just one more time, then you fall." It is not only about the ability to take a knock, but how you withstand the knock, how you learn from it, and how swiftly you recover from it. Steve Seibold describes in his book, Secrets of the World Class, that world-class people don't view failure as a negative. They view it as another opportunity to learn and grow from their setbacks. I imagine that you are going to hear excellent examples of this from our outstanding panelists. So my hope for you, for the REDe Summit, are that you are motivated by the stories of resiliency you hear, that you are filled with a yearning to discover, explore, and create, and that you are inspired to get up just one more time, then you fall down. Thank you again for joining us for the REDe Entrepreneurship Summit, which plays such a vital role at our university to encourage, celebrate, and enhance entrepreneurial endeavors among Ole Miss students across campus. Please enjoy the rest of the summit.
Welcome to the third annual REDe Entrepreneurship Summit, hosted by the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship at the University of Mississippi. My name is Clay Dibble, and I am a co-director of the University of Mississippi's Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, professor of management in the School of Business Administration, and holder of an endowed chair of entrepreneurship. Each year, we have a theme for our REDe Entrepreneurship Summit, and this year's theme is entrepreneurial resilience during a pandemic. We have two exceptional panels to explore this topic. First, though, I'd like to thank Chancellor Boyce and Dean Sirey of the School of Business Administration for their encouraging words. Plus, I would like to thank the chairman of the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship Advisory Board, Liza Silo-Lucer, and the Silo Agency in Jackson, Mississippi, for their assistance with the production and recruiting of our panelists. Lastly, I would like to thank our Director of Programs, Ms. Tone Main, for putting all of this together. We would also like to encourage all students who are interested in entrepreneurship and have an idea they would like to explore further to participate in our fall business model competition, as well as in our spring Gillespie business plan competition. More information on these competitions and our other programs, such as the Entrepreneurship Minor and Major. The Entrepreneurship Minor is online, by the way. Please go to our website, cie.olemiss.edu. Now, let's move on to our panelists. We are honored to have three outstanding entrepreneurs to share their stories of resilience today. And I'm pleased to introduce our panelists, Dr. Nashley Cephas, Mr. Joe Sanderson, and Mr. Emmett Sibbles. Each of these panelists has demonstrated amazing entrepreneurial resilience with their ventures and have strong ties to Mississippi. Now let's get started. Welcome. So we're very fortunate today to have Joe Sanderson Jr., who is the chairman of the board of directors and also chief executive officer of Sanderson Farms, headquartered in Laurel, Mississippi. Joe is a graduate of Laurel High School and Millsaps College. Upon graduation from college, he returned to Laurel in 1969 and joined the family-owned business, where he has served in various capacities. He is the third generation and has grown Sanderson Farms into the only publicly traded Fortune 1000 company headquartered in Mississippi, which is fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Joe, by the way. Thank you. And so Sanderson Farms is engaged in the production, processing, and marketing of poultry. It is one of the largest poultry companies in the United States, with approximately 18,000 employees and operations in Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, Georgia, and North Carolina, with revenues of over $3.4 billion. So we're very fortunate and thrilled to have you here with us, Joe. So quick aside, I do a lot of research in family businesses also, so it's fantastic to see a great family business here in Mississippi do so well. So just thank you very much for being here on that.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
Jumping into our questions here, please tell us a little bit more about yourself and your professional experiences.
Well, when I after I got out of college, I was just going to take a year off, and so I came to Laurel and worked in the business, and didn't know what I was going to do, but they gave me a pickup, and I worked on the farms, and we became a two-car family all of a sudden, and I loved my work, and I never left after that. I worked on the farms for 2 years, and then I went to the plant, and I stayed at the Laurel plant for 7 years, and then I actually worked at. I was over all the plants. We had 3 at that time, and then we acquired the Collins plant, and I became president in 1989, and we hadn't really grown in the chicken business since 1981 when we acquired Collins. And being a public company, I knew we had to grow. So my team developed a growth plan, and we presented it to the board of directors. And that growth plan, original growth plan, called for us to double shift each of our 4 plants and build a new plant in Macomb, Mississippi. And we did all that over a 3-year period of time, and our sales went up tremendously. And then subsequent to that, we built a plant in Texas in 1997, and then we built 6 more complexes over the next from 1997 until 2019, and our sales went from $189 million to the $3.4 billion, and we did not grow to be bigger. We grew the company to increase the value of the stock. And we've had many interruptions and events occur and industry cycles, and but that's been our story. We intend to continue that growth. We just opened a plant in Tyler, Texas that reached full production this past spring, and we stated publicly we're looking for a site right now to build another complex. And we have just found it better for us to go to places where there's ample labor, water that can be environmentally sound for the next 30, 40 years. And that's what we've chosen to do.
That's brilliant, brilliant. Because I mean, you know your company, you know how to grow it too, which is fantastic. So you mentioned some of the downturns, and I know that one of the big points about the REDe Summit is entrepreneurial resilience. Could you describe a little bit about that as you put the COVID-19 pandemic in perspective, telling us a little bit more about other potential catastrophic issues that you've had to overcome?
Yes, historically, our industry has been characterized by cycles where the industry overproduced. There would be a period of profitability, and then the industry would produce too many chickens, and oftentimes that coincided with excess protein of pork and beef. That's what was happening, and as we entered 2020, and that occurs from time to time, and that is the traditional cycle. Beginning in the 90s, we started having events occur that were not necessarily cycles. And the first one that occurred was that I recall was a ban of exports into Russia. And then the economic downturn of 2008, it was accompanied by a drought, and corn went to $8 a bushel. As all commodities, oil, you might remember, and gasoline prices escalated. And then in 2011, there was another drought. In 2008, the largest poultry processor declared bankruptcy. In 2011, there were 4 poultry companies declared bankruptcy. So there are events, and then there are traditional cycles. In 2020, we were entering a cycle of ample protein, chicken, beef, and pork, and then the pandemic, which is an event, that occurred at the same time as the cycle. So in February, March, April, when it really took hold, part of the market that we deal with, restaurant, food service, shut down almost. We have 7 plants that produce product for food service, and we have 5 plants that produce product for retail grocery stores. Mm-hmm. Well, the food service market was taking a big hit. Restaurants were closing. People were not going out to eat. But the grocery store business was very strong. And another market was hit as well, and that was the export market. And our industry ships about 20% of the production into exports. And what was happening in the export market was the same thing that was happening in the United States. So 2020, you had 2 things occurring. You had the traditional cycle, and you had the pandemic. We did a couple of things. One, we dealt with the pandemic first mainly to protect our workforce. That was number one. And fortunately, the things we did, we have never had an outbreak at any of our plants. We've been able to maintain full production. Another thing we did was reduce the production at our food service plants. We've shifted about 5% from our food service plants to our retail plants to keep up with the increased demand at our retail plants. We had to be flexible. We did a lot of things to protect our workforce. At the beginning of this, we engaged with 2 doctors of infectious diseases, and one of them visited our facilities in Georgia, our hatchery, our feed mill, our plant, to see what the conditions were. And he made several recommendations, which we did right off the bat. And I think that is what kept us from having any outbreaks, widespread infections in our facilities.
Yeah, that's amazing, because obviously you're facing that perfect storm you're describing with the cyclical and the pandemic coming together. Which if you think about graphs, forms that cross, which no one wants to see. So that's just
absolutely.
That's amazing. Moving on to the next question. What do you think will be the next big challenge to which you have to adapt in your field?
Well, we're hopeful, very hopeful, that this pandemic is going to resolve because of vaccine in 2021. We're concerned about people's lives in our plants and their health. We've never had that before. So we're taking more precautions, spending more money because of that. So we're hopeful that resolves. The next thing that it's time for there to be a drought. We hadn't had a drought anywhere in the world since 2011. And there could be a crop failure. It could happen in South America. It could happen in the United States. It could happen in China, India, or Europe. Those are the 5 main crop producing regions in the world. That has not occurred since 2011. So odds are that that is going to occur in one of those areas, even though genetics are getting better and better with the seeds. Odds are with climate change, without climate change, there's going to be a crop failure somewhere, sometime. And so you just need to have a good balance sheet and get through that. Those events occur. And so if I had to pick one, I would say a crop failure somewhere, sometime would be the next thing to be on the lookout for.
So historically, how often do the droughts normally occur? Approximately
4 to 5 years,
okay.
somewhere.
Right.
You know, Brazil, El Nino. I know you've heard of El Nino.
Yeah. Yes.
El Nino will give you the crop failure. And we have not had that.
When you face career challenges, what kept you from giving up?
Never thought about that. Typically, the events that occur, the cycles that occur, the industry bounces back in 6 to 9 months. Most people cannot. Their balance sheets and their bankers rein it in, and never contemplated giving up. You go to work. You know, when the industry is making a lot of money, that is not when a CEO does his best work. A CEO does his best work under adverse conditions, I think. That's when he's got to be relaxed and show leadership and confidence. And so his people that report to him will be confident as well. I think that's when they're challenged, when there's a challenge, I think that's when you do your best work.
That's excellent. Who would you consider a mentor, and how did this person assist and or prepare you for the challenges that you have faced?
Well, I had 2 or 3 mentors. My father, of course, was one. His right-hand man was Odell Johnson, and I reported to him for many years. Wyatt Davis was our CFO, and he was my CFO. Daddy hired him, and he and I negotiated our very first permanent credit facility. We had never had a real credit facility until 1992, and I wanted one before we built the Macomb plant. And Wyatt and I did that together, and so those 3. My daddy was a brilliant man. To me, I always considered him the entrepreneur. He started with nothing, and he got in the chicken business. I grew it, and I've changed the product mix and changed the formula, and we've done something different, and then we've built everything, and that's not the way it was traditionally done in the industry. Most everybody else acquired.
Right.
My dad taught me principles. He wanted me to get no favor. He was very certain that did not occur. And Odell Johnson was the same way. He did not want me to get any favor. I was his gunslinger when something happened at a plant. They sent me to run it. I spent 2 years at Hammond, Louisiana, a year at Collins, Mississippi after we bought it, and a year at our foods division in Jackson after we bought it. I took over for Odell as president after he retired. So I had three mentors. I learned a lot from all three of them, a lot of principles, a lot of hard work. I was very fortunate. I had three tremendous and very talented mentors.
It's fantastic. Thank you for that. Along those lines, so as you know, we're here at the University of Mississippi, so a lot of this is going to go out to our college students. What should college students do to be more prepared to have an entrepreneurial mindset?
We have some principles that we have written down that are part of our philosophy that we've just done in the last 3 or 4 years that we try to distinguish us. And one of them is hard work, and the other one is do your homework. And we don't go out and build a plant or make a marketing change or whatever it is we're doing without thoroughly doing our homework and working hard. Back in the 90s, we were one of the largest fast food producers in the industry. We were Kentucky Fried Chicken's second largest supplier. We were the largest supplier to Popeyes and to Church's. But the margins on those products were diminishing. And there was a new market emerging that we were not participating in. It was a deboning market segment for food service. And we kept looking and looking, but we could not get information about it. So we converted one shift at our Collins plant to Big Bird, to heavier bird, and started deboning. And we started getting information about it. 2 years later, we exited the fast food market segment. It was a huge risk, leaving something we had been doing for 25 years and been good at, and going to something we didn't know anything about, but we did our homework first. It took a lot of homework, and then it took a lot of courage, I guess is what you'd say. But it worked out well for us.
That's fantastic. Great story. So thank you very much on that. We've been very fortunate to have Joe F. Sanderson Jr., Chairman and Board of Directors and Chief Executive Officer of Sanderson Farms, headquartered in Laurel, Mississippi, as our guest today on our panel for the REDe Summit. And Joe, thank you once again for taking time to do this.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the invitation.
Welcome to the REDe Summit. I'm very fortunate today to be joined by Dr. Nashley Cephas, who is the Applied Science Manager for Amazon's Artificial Intelligence, focusing on fairness and identifying biases into the technologies. She has done this on top of leading the visual team, Amazon Visual Search team in Atlanta, which launched the visual search for replacement parts on Amazon Shopping app in June 2018. Before that, she was one of the key startup founders in PartPick there in Atlanta, which was then acquired by Amazon, where she was the Chief Technology Officer for PartPick. And then she migrated over to the Amazon to, I'm sure, lead the team there and help with the implementation of the PartPick technologies. And if that wasn't enough, before she did all that, Nashley also got a PhD from School of Electrical and Computer Engineering at Georgia Institute of Technology, and very recently in 2014, and continues to apply that amazing knowledge that she got there, received there, into her company now. She has also received a BS in Computer Engineering from Mississippi State University, which makes it even more impressive that you're here with us today, Nashley. And on top of doing all those other things with Amazon and starting companies, she also is the founder of BeanPath, which is a nonprofit organization that she's going to talk a little bit more about in Jackson, Mississippi. And we're just super excited to have you here on that. And in that segue, can you kind of give us a little bit of a background that goes beyond the bio that I just gave, and talk a little bit more about your professional experiences?
So, yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be a part of this. And I'm born and raised in Jackson, Mississippi. Actually, for those of you familiar with Jackson, went to Murrah High School, graduated class of '03. So I did a lot there. I even played piano in the performing arts program there called Power APAC, and just took opportunity to do and learn a lot. Played tennis, so things like that. Played in the band, and so as you mentioned, I got my bachelor's in computer engineering from Mississippi State. Sorry, go Bulldogs. I have to say it. I have to say it one time. But okay, I won't say it anymore. I promise.
No worry, I'm about to Are You Ready here soon, so don't worry.
Yeah. So and then I went on to get my PhD, like you said, at Georgia Tech. I think one of the biggest kind of stories is that while I was there, I met a woman, a young lady who had this idea for a company where you could take a picture of a part like a screw, a nut, a bolt, washer, and the algorithms we would write would automatically recognize the part in that picture and also measure that part. And so we would say, hey, this is a 2-inch hex bolt, 2-inch long, half an inch base diameter, threads per inch of 15. And we would show you a link to where you can buy that exact part. And so I became, the person who wrote that, one of the first prototypes for that technology. And she was able to take that prototype that I did as a struggling grad student, and she raised $1.2 million. And so when she raised that, I came on as full time CTO, Chief Technology Officer. And then, long story short, we ended up getting acquired by Amazon almost 2 years, less than 2 years later, actually. And so, it's been quite a journey. I've been at Amazon ever since, and focusing on artificial intelligence now. But I have a lot of different experiences, and I'm grateful for that. All these different, ventures and things that I'm doing. It really gives me a wide perspective on how to approach, entrepreneurship.
That's brilliant, and I love the part that, because I know you're also heavily involved in your nonprofit organization too with BeanPath. Could you talk a little bit about it?
Sure. So I founded a nonprofit called the BeanPath. Um, let's see, back in 2018. And so what we do is we like to sow uh, technical expertise in order to fertilize and grow communities. And so a lot of people don't know that Bean is actually a computer programming term too, used in Java programming. And so computer scientists probably know that. But most people think of bean as like a seed, something that grows and sprouts into something bigger. And so we say, follow the bean path, cultivate to sprout, determine your route. We want to help people reach their destinations with technology and us helping them. And so what we do essentially is we have these free tech office hours. We used to do them in the local libraries over the past year and a half. Since COVID, we've been doing it all virtually. But you can sign up one-on-one with a tech expert. You have questions about, hey, I want to start my own website, or I'm a small business and I just want some advising on how to, streamline my operations a little bit better using technology. You may actually have a tech startup idea of your own, and we will sit down and talk with you and kind of walk you through it and guide you through it, give you some accountability partners. We actually just recently launched a program called CTO to Go, where we will, help you for basically we touch base every couple of weeks, put you on a trajectory to develop your technical roadmap, and then help you hire the tech talent in order to, create whatever it is you're trying to achieve. And, over the course of a few months. And so the CTO to Go program, for those people who don't necessarily have that in-house CTO or technical expertise, we can be that for you. And, of course, the applications are online if you're interested in that. Thebeanpath.org. Also follow us on social media at the Beanpath. But yeah, so that's what we do at the Beanpath. We also do, workshops for youth. We've done several hackathons and coding classes, and we've given away, I think, is it now $8,000 in scholarships and grants to either local organizations or students who, have a technology need. And so that's what we're all about.
That's brilliant. Well, I think along those lines, because And you have so many fields, so I'll let you choose which field you would like to talk about for this next question. Well, what do you think will be the next challenge to which you have to adapt to in your field?
The next challenge. So I will say there's which I didn't really mention, but my next project because I can't, entrepreneur life, you can't just sit still, right? You're always on to the next thing. And so my next project is what we're calling the Tech District in Jackson, downtown area, which is actually, I'm acquiring 12 acres of land in that downtown area, and we're turning that into a tech district, which is it's going to be live, work, play. In addition to housing and restaurants, we're going to have like a whole innovation hub, makerspace, event center, conference and training, places for people to have office space, so things like that. And I think a challenge that we're going to come across, of course, a lot of the event space and conferences, of course, were not in person anymore. And so, whereas that was a big part of the, or at least a substantial part of the business model, we've had to pivot just a little bit. I think also, some people are not as inclined to, you know, uh, invest their money in these type of projects anymore. Again, the entrepreneur life, you have to know how to pivot. You have to know how to adapt because things are constantly changing. And so, understanding people, I think understanding, the psychology behind, why people do what they do, all that goes into, helping to maintain and survive in a time like this.
Excellent. And along those lines, because I know, so I do some things here, and we have a lot of social entrepreneurs who are engaged with trying to apply entrepreneurship to civil social problems. In your experience, how much overlap is there between the two, between the social entrepreneurship and like the for-profit entrepreneurship?
Right. So, uh, actually, in my world, uh, technology and technology development overlaps with the nonprofit, which is exposing people to technology, being on that platform, but also understanding how to leverage that platform to say, okay, yes, you're Amazon and we do all this stuff, but how can I also divert some of the resources and some of those benefits back to my community and back to my home
Mhm.
state and my hometown. And there are several things in the works. There were way more in the works before COVID. So some things have been put on hold, but using that platform as a technologist and as someone in the industry, and then turning back around and say, hey, we have a responsibility to do this social good to pour back into people so that we can continue this cycle. And I think it overlaps pretty well. So
Excellent. Thank you. And I agree with you completely, by the way.
mhm, mhm.
Thank you very much for that. When you face career challenges, what kept you from giving up? Because once again, you've obviously demonstrated tremendous intellectual curiosity just by talking about things you did in high school, playing pianos and tennis playing, and everything else. So just talk a little bit of these challenges and why you didn't give up.
Right. So I think there are. So I grew up raised by my mother, my grandmother. So it was a house full of women. So my sister. Uh, so we did everything. So we mowed the yard. We got on top of the roof to hang the Christmas lights. We did everything. And so I was very curious and interested in how things worked. And if the lawnmower broke, we had to fix it. And so that's kind of where a lot of my engineering, mindset came from. Even though they weren't formal engineers, but they knew like how to do a lot of things, and we just learned. We picked it up really fast, and so I think that took me into, um, you know, undergrad as well as coming from high school and leaving Jackson to come to Atlanta, and being able to say, okay, I know that I'm unique and that I know where I come from and I know what makes me special. And it took me a while to understand, my own value. And that's something I think a lot of people, we've often talked about, especially like women in the field and minorities and, African Americans and blacks in the tech field, and in entrepreneurship in general. You often think, sometimes because you don't see other people that look like you think am I supposed to be here? And it's called, I think it's called imposter syndrome. And so, those are definitely some challenges they had to work through and understanding. But once you realize your value, and this is where it really can go for anybody, once you realize the value and what you bring to the table, that's when everything starts taking off. Until if you're just trying to be someone else or trying to act like something that you're not, you're not going to get very far. So.
Brilliant. Thank you. Who would you consider a mentor, and how did this person assist or prepare you for the challenges that you faced?
Well, I always say that my mom and my grandmother were, really strong mentors. Those were the first women that I, the matriarchs of the family that I, encountered. And I think as I got older, they were just strong women. They did what they had to do. It was no excuses. This needs to be done. If you're afraid of snakes, but you got a snake in the back room, got to get it out. So you're the only one there. So I think it's just that kind of helped. And I know also coming through, I have a whole list of mentors in every aspect of life, people that I looked up to, people that I still reach out to today. Lucy Hanser, if you're watching, hello. And then Miss Portia Powell, who she's the one who, my 8th grade teacher who sent me to my first engineering camp. And I just remember those people, all those people that really helped me. It's because of a good support system, because of a good team. Oftentimes people say, "Oh, I'm a self-made man or a self-made woman," but it definitely takes quite a few people to help mold you, for better or for worse, to get you where you are, and that's just what I believe. So yeah.
That's brilliant. What should college students do to be more prepared to have an entrepreneurial mindset?
So good point. I think some people they have it before they even start college. Selling candy in high school or selling drinks behind the gym. It's this you have people like that. They have that mindset, and I think if that's you, then you just need a little bit more experience. You just need a little bit more to be a little bit more well versed, and that's what I think going to college and getting an education does. It doesn't necessarily say you're not great or you can't do this without it, but it just enriches you that much more. And it helps you grow your network. I think that's really important too. Networking, they often say it's not what you know, it's who you know. That is so true. I think it's a little bit of what you know too, but it's a lot who you know.
Thank you very much. And Nashley, thank you very much for joining us. So once again, everyone, we have been joined by Dr. Nashley Cephas, and thank you for taking time, because I know you've had a busy schedule today. So I really thank you for making time for this. And once again, thank you.
Yes, thank you all so much, and have a good one. I was going to say, you can feel free to reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn, and feel free to follow the Bean Path at the Bean Path, or check out our website, thebeanpath.org. So thank you so much for having me.
Welcome for a wonderful opportunity to engage with one of our amazing Ole Miss alumni. Fortunate to be here with Emmett Sibbles today. And Emmett, thank you so much for being here. You've done a lot of great things. I know you graduated in '96 from Ole Miss in the managerial finance in the School of Business. Then you spent some time working, and then you went on to Harvard to get your MBA. And then you have been doing amazing things in Nashville, my hometown. So thank you very much for that, for coming back to the South. But Emma, get us started. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing these days.
Yeah, so you're right. I graduated Ole Miss in '96, and then I worked in investment banking in Atlanta for a couple of years. Started a company when I was 24 years old, and that was the first of 7 companies I've either been the founding employee of or an actual founder. Of those companies, a lot of them came after business school. I've been an entrepreneur basically since business school, working in healthcare, payment processing, and software. So I've been a part of 7 startup companies. 2 failed. 3 of them sold for a combined $500 million. And then I've got 2 companies that are too early to tell. one of them we just started in June. So I've got a 600 batting average, 3 for 5, but at least the 3 have been good. So I'm really excited to be here with you and talking to students and other people to help entrepreneurs.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I was going to say, I know because you also serve on our advisory board for the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. That's some of the great things that you've been doing. But can you talk a little bit about the industries that you selected to work in?
Yeah, sure. So the industries I worked in kind of happened based on finding great people to work with. It's a little different. When I was coming out of business school, I chose Nashville as the place I wanted to live. And I cold called like 25 of the wealthiest people in town I found out of a magazine. I cold called all the ones who were entrepreneurs or had been CEOs, not the ones who had inherited money. And eventually I cold called a guy who had a big payment processing company, and he was just starting a new company. And we've been together for years. So he had a payment processing company, and then later I had my own payment processing company. And then after that, he had an investment in a home sleep testing company, which got me into sleep apnea. And we've had 3 companies in that industry. So it kind of got me into healthcare. It was just all kind of following great people.
That's brilliant. And I got to admit, I know we're going a little bit off script here, but could you talk a little bit about your networking approach there? Because I've never heard that story about how you kind of broke into the Nashville scene, per se.
Yeah, so I would approach people for advice, not a job. They knew I was looking for a job. So that, when you're coming out of school, people know you're looking for a job. So I would say I'm looking for advice, which kind of disarms people and allows them to talk to you, more likely to talk to you. And so alumni are great for either Ole Miss or Harvard, either one. They always, frequently want to help young students. And so I just would either cold call or guess people's email address and just say, I'm trying to meet people in the area. And but I'd mainly be looking as much as anything for the next set of introductions. I found that was better than going through HR departments or job boards.
That's brilliant. Brilliant advice right there. I was going to say, that's one of those things I always try to coach students on. I know you do too. You spend a lot of time in that area in terms of coaching students. In terms of, don't be afraid to use your connections. Do whatever you can to get a job. Because at the same time, people want to help you. They want to help people who are engaged and excited about being there and learning about them from them. So
that's right. That's right.
Which is really important, especially given this period of COVID-19 pandemic. Can you tell us a little bit about other potential catastrophic issues that you've had to overcome?
Yeah. In 2007, I started a business and raised $45 million as CEO from a private equity fund in New York, and bought 3 companies, and then had some disagreements with the private equity fund, and eventually got let go. The company was profitable when I left, and eventually it failed. It got sold to the debt holders because they took on so much debt. But anyway, what I learned from that was that I needed a great partner who was different than me to be successful. I had kind of started that business almost on my own without a great partner. And I just think it's really good to have people with complementary skill sets to succeed in an entrepreneurial environment. It's challenging enough, and you need help. So I went back to our old CEO and partnered with him in the healthcare business that we started subsequently.
That's brilliant. What do you think will be the next challenge to which you have to adapt to in the field?
Working in healthcare, the biggest challenges are changes in regulations and reimbursement. So we've dealt a lot with Medicare, and a lot of the health plans will follow Medicare in changing the rules and changing what you get paid. So you have to adapt very fast. So I was in the CPAP industry for sleep apnea, and they had a program that was basically an auction called competitive bidding that drove down prices. And if you lost the auction, you were not allowed to sell any supplies in that city for Medicare. And so instead of seeing that as a bad thing, we said, okay, well, that's going to make a lot of people sell because they won't be able to make money in it. Prices went down 45%. I mean, it was a lot. So people went from making a lot of money to not making hardly any. And we started acquiring a lot of businesses, really just their assets, and built up a big company, and were able to reduce our costs and use technology to make it very profitable. That's one way where we took something that was hurting the industry and turned it around. So you just have to adapt. You'd have to be creative and look at negative things as opportunities to change strategy and build something different.
When you face career challenges, what kept you from giving up?
So there were really three things I probably rely on the most. The first one is just, as an entrepreneur, I feel like you've got to have what I term realistic optimism, which seems kind of like a paradox, but you've got to always have optimism that things are going to work out. And sometimes they don't, but you take those failures and learn from them. But you have to be realistic. So you have to look at the facts of the situation and really understand that you've got to navigate through that. You stay optimistic, but you don't have false optimism. You don't say everything's going to be great in 3 months. You look at it realistically and battle through that. The other thing is good mentors or confidants. In my case, it's really my wife. She is great at me telling her about stressful situations and not freaking out and giving me encouragement. And then the last thing I would say is faith in God. I think an eternal perspective really helps, knowing that, your legacy is not defined by career and any failures you may have in your career, but you've got a longer term view, and that I find that's comforting and gives me some peace and calmness when I'm facing tough decisions.
Great advice right there. Great advice. You mentioned your wife as being one of your mentors. Could you talk to us a little bit more about who you would also consider to be a mentor, and how did this person assist prepare you for the challenges? And by the way, if you'd like to highlight your wife again, because you can never do that enough, as we both know, that'd be great to do too.
She's more a confidant than a mentor, but my mentor would probably be the CEO I've worked with. I've worked with him on 4 of the 7 startups I mentioned. He's a real balance to me and a great partner. We're now pretty much partners. And he has great sales and negotiation skills, a really good strategic instincts, but he's not detail oriented. Together, we're very creative. We both have a lot of acquisition experience, and I bring more finance-minded approach and more detail-oriented. And I'm probably a better manager of people. I'm kind of less hard on people, which can be good or bad. But he can fire somebody and be fine. I can't sleep at night when I have to fire somebody. So we're different, and he can get a little heated, and I keep a cool, calm, collected, analytical approach. And so we're really very complementary. We work well. He can do things comfortably that maybe is a little uncomfortable for me, and he has skills I don't have, and we've just worked really well together. So he's been a mentor.
That's really brilliant that you bring that up once again about those compliments and how you complement each other. And you don't have to do everything by yourself, right? It's part of that team, and everybody's investing in the team. Because when people invest, they're investing in you, and obviously your partner right there. So that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Could you talk a little bit for college students? One of the things, actually, I'm going to take this a slightly different direction. I'll come back to it. You do a great job. I know you're really passionate about internships and things like that to help give students experiences. Could you talk a little bit about why internships, from your perspective, are so important?
Well, I think internships complement the classroom. I think in your first 2 years of school, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I liked business, but I didn't really. It was because my father was in business. I didn't really know a lot of details. So you're learning in school. I find that if you get an internship, you learn how a business works a lot better. It all depends on the type of internship. If it's something where they invest in you and really teach you about the business, even if you're not adding a ton of value, but if you're learning about the business, that can be great. It actually will inform you on what major to do to enroll in, or what classes to take. So the reason I got an investment banking job is I had an internship with a big brokerage firm, and they rotated us through all these different departments, and I liked investment banking. And so after that, knew I needed to get more accounting experience, and took intermediate accounting as like a elective just to take it. And I never would have done that if I hadn't had an internship. I never would have gotten the investment banking job if I didn't take those courses. So, it's just really great training, learning, and then kind of focusing what you want to do in school and what you want to study, and sharpening your interests.
Brilliant. That's an excellent answer. What should college students do to be more prepared to have an entrepreneurial mindset? Because you help them, the internship is great to get them a career, but that entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah, I think to me, there's two skills that help most for entrepreneurs are either sales skills or finance skills. And the greatest entrepreneurs have a little bit of both, in my opinion. Obviously, management skills, there are a lot of different skills that all help. But I'm a big fan of, if you can't sell it, you don't have a business. And if you can sell it, but you don't have a good finance mind, you're going to misprice things. You might lose money. You might overspend and not realize it till it's too late. So I think those two areas are really good. Sales is hard to teach in school. So I think internships, again, are a great way. It comes with practice. And so if you can get an internship one summer where you sell some, I think that's great. Then I think if you're not comfortable selling, finance skills are very important. And you may partner with somebody who's really good at sales to have an entrepreneurial business. And so I really like those skills from a vision standpoint. I think those two skills can really help an entrepreneurial mindset.
That's excellent. And I was going to say, I know, because finance, obviously, you can learn the formulas, you can figure that out, but it's still hard to apply it, as we also know, on the accounting side. But the selling is also really difficult too, but they're two different skill sets a lot of times.
Yes.
People who can do both are obviously going to do really well. But wonderful insight for that. Emmett, thank you so much for taking your time to be with us today. And once again, congratulations on the sale of your two most recent sales. And we look forward to hearing about your next great venture and how you sold that too down the road. But thank you so much for taking time with us today.
Thank you, and hotty toddy.
Many thanks to our panelists, Nashley Cephas, Joe Sanderson, and Emmett Sibbles, who shared their words of wisdom and inspiration with us today. Likewise, we'd like to thank Chancellor Boyce, Dean Sari, our chairman, Liza Silo-Lucer, and the Silo Agency for their wonderful production and assistance with the recruiting of our panel, along with Tone Main, who put all of this together. We look forward to seeing all of you at the REDe Summit next year. Lastly, we'd like to encourage all students who are interested in entrepreneurship and have an idea to participate in our fall business model competition and in our spring Gillespie business plan competition. More information on these competition and our other programs, such as the entrepreneurship minor and major, can be found on our website, cie.olemiss.edu. Thank you once again for being part of the audience and part of our group with the REDe Summit, and we hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.